am Negan.
I am Negan.
I am Negan.
What's up, people? Welcome to another episode of I Am Negan, a TWD Universe podcast. As you know, we cover everything Walking Dead, and right now we're in the midst of covering two of the spin-offs from Walking Dead proper. That's World Beyond and Fear the Walking Dead. Tonight's episode is Season 1, Episode 8 of World Beyond. The Sky is a Graveyard. I am your host, Adam Vale. Tonight I'm joined by Dana Abercrombie.
I'm excited to be here.
And Richard Bailey Jr.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, people. Wow. That's all I got to say. A lot going on in all this. If you've heard our last episode, you know how we feel about this series. We're not too thrilled about it. It's got issues. Got a lot of issues. It had promise at the beginning, and then it turned into some freeform teeny bop with zombies. It just, whatever. But this one sort of picked up and cleaned things up in a bit, and it had a flow to it. I have to say that. Not too fond of the writing. There were some issues there. But real quick, thanks again for everybody that's been listening. It's been great. I'm just glad that everyone's enjoying this. Hey, if you feel like commenting, you got your own thoughts, whether it's positive or negative, go ahead, leave it in the comments. If you're on YouTube, for all the people subbing and listening on Spotify, and there is a lot, thanks again. And we're still going to be back. We got some more news recently that Walking Dead proper, additional 6 episodes, the expansion of season 10 will be returning February 10th. Right, Rich? Is that right? February 10th?
Actually, it's towards the end of February. I think it's like around the 26th or the 28th.
I was off by a lot of dates. But you know what? It's in February, so there you go. Sometime in February, toward the end of February, we know that that's coming back. And that's good to know, right? So there we go. But we also know that this is episode 8. There's only 10 episodes for this first season, thank God. So we got 2 more there. And then tomorrow, and we'll have that early in the day, we have Fear the Walking Dead, the mid-season finale. So that's happening. And that's it. So yeah, lots going on. And let's just dive right into it. Boom, here we go. So as you know from the last episode, Tony, the Magic Man, was found dead. Everybody found him dead. And then we see Silas in the closet. He looks out of it. His weapon that he carried with him was all bloodied up. It looks like he did the deed, right? So here it is. We see that Silas is outside in like the playground area, and he's tied up. It's at night. Tied up at night. Don't know why they did this. There's still walkers or in the show empties out there. I was like, well, why not just have him in the basement or lock him in a room? Whatever. You know, maybe they just felt he was just safer out there. And you hear the group inside, and they're all trying to figure out what to do next. They're all like, we can't believe he did this. Iris is in shock. Elton is the only one pretty much taking his side. He's like, no, we know Silas. He can't do this. I'm like, well, we know about his dad and all that stuff. It's like, at that point, I thought that would have been the moment that Felix jumps in and says, no, this is what really happened. But he doesn't. He says it later in the episode, but this would have been the key part to say it in his defense, in Silas's defense. But still, everybody's pointing fingers and they're all seeing him. It's like, hey, that was his weapon. Got a dead body. Here's a guy who has a history of murdering people from, what they know is murdering the father. And so he's tied up outside. And it's just, it was very, whatever. That's just how they played it out, and I get it. But the other part was when Felix then goes up, he takes out the bag that Silas had. I guess I don't know if it was already packed or if they never unpacked. They never really explained that, if this is like his go-away bag or whatever. But anyway, he had his bag. They empty it out, and what do they find? A lot of the drawings that Iris had did, and this was way back at the campus. Now, we know that he was fond of this stuff. We know he was fond of a lot of things. He picked up her poetry and all that stuff. So they were like, oh, wow. And Hope is like, this means that he's been digging in our trash. He's a psycho. He and she was like, what? I don't get it. He was like, come on. And this is, again, this is something that we saw before. And Hope makes it seem like she's so observant, but yet this is the one time she brings up, well, he really liked you. And then the way you were acting with Percy. And she's like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Come on now. Now Iris is going to play it off like she wasn't falling for Percy.
To be fair,
Iris can be very smart in some things, and when it comes to romantical things, she doesn't understand anything. So that, for me, was believable.
All right. You could.
And also the fact that I believe that that was the bag that he was always carrying with him.
Yeah.
And I believe that it was Huck who said, I'm sorry, when she was right next to him outside, picked up the bag.
Yeah. She picked up the
and
bag.
Spilled everything out, which meant to me, when you say I'm sorry, in regards to what you're going to show the whole group, I think that means that she already knew that
Felix.
Felix, no, not Felix, Silas had this kind of, now I don't want to say obsession, but like deep admiration for her, and that's why she was going to show drawings to the rest of the group.
But we all knew this. That's the thing. I'm sure everybody knew this.
Well, yes, we're looking on the outside, but sometimes you get those people who are really smart in one thing, and they're really, they're survivalists and everything else, but when it comes to romance, Iris has shown that she is not that bright when it comes to certain things dealing with romance. Even the whole situation with Percy. Percy and the other kid.
Yeah.
The smoldering CW guy.
Yeah, so they made a big stink about the drawings, and I didn't really flip out, or I didn't find it shocking when I saw it. Now, it would have been crazier if they found a bunch of letters saying, I love you, I can't wait to lay next to you, I want to feel your warm body, creepy shit like that, but we didn't find any of that. We just found drawings. That was it. And I was like, what? And again, this is from what we know. I don't think she knows that he picked up that poem. A few episodes back, we saw the flashback where he was cleaning up. She dropped something and he picked it up and he kept it. I don't know if she knows that. She probably doesn't. That's just something for us. But I don't know. I didn't see an issue with that. But again, up in arms, everyone's like, this is it, and we got to get rid of him. And while they're doing all of that, it does a little camera shot. They show Silas up there and he's looking up at the stars, and this is, we talked about this off air, really cool little counterclockwise camera shot. It's like zooms in counterclockwise the whole image, and if you guys watched it at home, you know what I'm talking about. And those who just this is a spoiler. It was really cool. It rotates counterclockwise. Now he's like upside down, and then in the bottom left, it just fades in World Beyond. Pretty cool. I like that. That was a nice little touch. So real quick before we go into the meat and potatoes. What did you guys? Anything? I know you jumped in a little bit, Dana, but Rich, you got anything you want to say about this little intro here of how we saw the situation for Silas?
I love the intro. With the titles and the effects. So I would give them props for that. As for how the episode opened, that to me felt very appropriate because, again, considering what happened at the end of the last episode, this is just a continuation, and now you see that now Silas is tied up outside. So I was totally fine with how it opened up. I have no issues.
Yeah. All right. So we will get
I did.
Oh,
I have one more issue. No, my thing, I think you already kind of expressed it earlier, the fact that you have this kid and you tie him up to, what was it, a swing?
Yeah, it was like the swing, the post of like one of the swing sets.
The random post at one does not look very strong to begin with. He's out there in the cold at night with the walker, so I'm kind of confused. Are they okay if he dies? And I don't know why you just wouldn't keep him in the house.
Yeah, that was.
He was already inebriated, apparently, in the closet, not fully aware of himself. So to drag him all the way outside, tie him up very poorly onto this post, didn't make any sense. I didn't know what they was trying to accomplish with that.
Yeah, it was definitely very odd, but hey, that's the approach they went with it. All right, so the next scene here is the flashbacks. There's a lot of flashbacks in this one. But this one, it makes more sense out of all the others because now we find out exactly what happened. And it looks like he was having an altercation with his dad. And when his dad, this is Silas, and it was in a nice house, everything looks clean. And that was the other thing. I don't know. Something about clean houses and turmoil and things happening, I feel it doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't mesh well with how they describe these situations. I don't know. Whatever. It's just my own little thing. So anyway, we see that he's there in the house. He gets into a little altercation with his dad. His dad starts choking him against a wall. So we hear a lot of screaming. The mom is there. Well, no, the mom is not there. Sorry, we just hear him screaming. Dad is screaming at him, going hard on him with this whole thing. A lot of crazy flashbacks where then we see another quick flashback where Silas is listening to headphones. He's at a dinner table with his parents and he's listening to music. Now, I have kids. That's a no. You don't do that. But they didn't say anything. He's already sitting there and he has it on. And the dad is trying to tell him, it's like, hey, we're going to go get a present for your mom and this and that. And he's not listening, obviously. And then it does a quick jump like he's about to attack him. But anyway, we get back to this flashback because, there's a lot of flashbacks back and forth. He's got him against the wall. He's choking him. Silas grabs onto an object, hits his dad over the head. Dad gets knocked down. Silas, and all of a sudden, now again, this is when Silas kept talking about he gets into these blackout moments. He doesn't recall any of this later on. But this, I guess, is when he blacked out. After he hit his dad, he goes over and he just starts ground and pounding him. He gets on top, just bashing him up. Because then in another quick flashback moment, you see Silas is at the corner, and then he goes over and he looks at his dad all bloodied on the floor, and he's like, Dad, are you okay? Like as if oh, somebody broke in and beat your ass. Who did that? And the dad is looking at him like all bloody and choked up and like, you did this shit. What the hell's wrong with you? But then, and not to jump too far ahead, but it's only because it's never really addressed later on. Does the dad also black out? Is that something? Because he says, oh, it happened to my dad. It happened to my dad. Is he saying, when Silas always keeps repeating that, is he just saying that when I black out, it's like the situation with my dad? Or is he trying to say that my dad had an issue of blacking out as well? Because we know the dad obviously is abusive to Silas and the mom. And was he trying to play? Because I didn't see any bottles of liquor or any of that. There was no talk of alcohol or drug abuse. So is this something that happens that the dad gets angry, he blacks out, he attacks, and does not remember? Did any of that stuff, did you guys pick any of that? Or does any make sense?
I have a comment to make about that. My takeaway, when they had the scene where they were eating at the table, and obviously Silas had on the headphones, and you see 1 minute the father is talking to Silas, talking about, we have to get a gift for your mom. And everything seems cool, and then all of a sudden, because he didn't like how Silas wasn't responding, that's when he snapped. I thought that he meant that the father has these moments where he does snap, and all of a sudden he becomes abusive, or it's some type of, if he sees that the response is not what he wants from either Silas or his wife, that he will snap on him like that. That was what I thought that he meant when he said that his dad has these moments where he just snaps. So I don't know what he was referring to with the blackout in regards to his father per se, but that was what I got out of that based off of what they showed me in the episode with that particular scene.
Yep. That's what I got as well, that you become so enraged, and we've seen it before. You become so enraged that you black out, and that's when you start fighting people.
Yeah. Well, because I was just trying to figure that whole thing out. If he was just trying to say that this is a known condition within the family and that's why they didn't say anything. Because I usually, just to go with it, which shows when they introduce some kind of spousal abuse or something going on in the household, it's always related to like drugs or alcohol. It's always something like that. I was like, oh, Dad likes to drink and he gets abusive.
There is the medical term called rage blackout, which is defined by extreme primitive anger that is followed by unconsciousness. It's an actual thing that happens. And you don't need drugs or alcohol.
All right. Well, right toward the end of that scene, well, he's taking a look and seeing what's going on with his dad, and he's on top of him, well, just checking on him. This is because it was, like I said, there was a lot of weird flashbacks, but now it's a flashback, but present flashback, where he's just looking at his dad, bloody on the floor, and then we hear there's a knock at the door. And there's a lot of knocks on the door. It's very, even my note, I wrote this down. It's like, this is obsessive. Because if someone's just visiting, they would knock and then they'd just be quiet. But this is like banging on the door. So I was like, well, it's either somebody that knows what's going on inside or somebody that is trying to get inside because of something else that's happening outside. I don't know. But it was just something, it just in my own head, it triggered with all of this. Right, so then we get to the next scene, and it's, again, everybody just still trying to figure out what's going on. What is the plan with Silas? because we have Huck and Felix talking about it, and Huck is like, well, Felix is like, what do we do? Or do we just banish him? Do we just send him off? And Huck was like, what we have to do is probably go back. We have to go back and they have a trial, that type of thing. And we just put this all together, which is kind of odd that you say that now. It's like, you want to go back after all this? You just went across the Mississippi and that was a whole thing to do. You even said once you make it across, there's almost no way to get back, at least no easy way. So why even bring that up as an option? If anything, it was like, you know what? We just leave him here. We just send him out on his way. What else can you do? I mean, real quick before I go, that right there for me was a trigger. Like, come on now. This is a no-brainer then. If you think he did this and you think he's a threat, then you just either, I don't think they would put him down. They wouldn't kill him. But then you just banish him, right? You don't even consider going back to the campus. Huh, Dana?
That's such a harsh thing to do, because it's like,
well, right now,
at the end of the day, he's a kid, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, they because that was the thing we also mentioned with Felix, because he says, well, we can't even find Percy. He saw a blood trail go off into the woods area. He doesn't know if Percy's dead. Right now they know that Tony's dead. They don't know what's going on. And it's like, what was the point of all of this? But then they're not really even asking him. That was the other thing that I had an issue with it. If anything, have him tied up in like one of the rooms and interrogate him. You tie him up outside and then you discuss what you're going to do with him.
Well, they did that all off camera.
Yeah.
Because remember, they was like, he says he doesn't remember anything, and he just woke up.
Out. So
they showed everything off camera.
So let me just make a quick comment here. I agree 100% with everything that Dana and you said earlier about you probably should have had him in the same building as opposed to outside. So I agree 100% with that. I just want to make a comment and say this. Elton is what I will call a real one, because this is the only guy that was willing to stand by him and didn't believe that he did any of this stuff the whole episode. And so for that, I have to give him props that he has a real friend in this character.
Right now, that's the next scene, and that's exactly what happens. While everyone's having this discussion, your boy Elton goes out there, and even Silas is like, "Don't come, it's not safe." Like he's like, "No, it is safe. It's cool. It's like I'm here to help you. I'm gonna help you out with this. I don't believe you did this. This is not you." And he's like, "You don't know me. I black out. Things like this happen." He's like, "No, I've seen you. You get you raging toward walkers and stuff, never to hurt any of us." And I'm going to do everything I can to get you out of this, because I don't think you did it. That was a key moment there. So that's what you're talking about. It's like how, and he even later on, he brings up Elton talking to Hope about all this. And she's like, what are you defending him? It's like, well, he's family. This is it. I don't have a family. You guys are my family. Silas is my family. So I'm going to try to help him out.
And Iris also takes his side as well, because she's the kind of gullible one to this. Her whole adventures has always just been gullible. We should trust Percy, and everyone. So yeah.
All right, so then we get another. There was a lot of flashbacks. We got another flashback with Silas, and now he's back over his dad. Again, we're hearing the knocks on the door. So he goes over, opens up the door, and there's a woman there. And she basically just says it outright. She was like, you know what? The walls are thin. I share a wall, and I hear a lot of things that I don't want to hear. So, where's your mom? I want to see your mom. Make sure she's okay from that. And I'm just paraphrasing, but she was like, that piece of shit of a father you have. So she's assuming now that he's just beating on the mom. She heard all the commotions. And then he says, hey, no, mom's not home. Mom's at work. Woman pauses. She takes a look at Silas like, are you okay? Because then now she's putting it together. It's like, oh, then he's beating on you. So is everything okay with you? And he was like, well, and a lot of pauses. And usually that's a sign something's going on. There was a lot of pauses there. And she's like, hey, listen, don't worry. I can get, there's a safe place I know for you and your mom. I can get you both out of this situation. And she puts her hand out. And she's like, come on, let's go. And he could have, but in these situations, and especially what's going on now, where I don't know if he knows that he just killed his dad, or maybe that he just beat him really bad. But he was like, no, it's all right, forget it, and he just closes the door. He just moves on with that. He was like, there goes that. But the key part of this is that once he closes the door, he turns around and dun dun dun. In my head, I had that one of those Michael Meyer moments. Ding 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 ding. It's because whenever whoever they're fighting against, whoever's fighting against Michael Myers, they'll beat his ass, and then when they look back, he's gone. They're like, what happened? He just got up and left. But before I move on, there's an issue with this scene right here, because the layout, the way they show it, is a hallway. Now, if you guys seen the episode, then you know what I'm talking about. There's a hallway, and straight to the left is the door, right? It's straight. That's the open of the door. Now, right to the right side of the front door are the stairs that take you upstairs. So here it is. He turns around to look. He doesn't see his dad. Again, later there'll be another flash where we'll get to it, but this is the part to mention it because it's the one time we see it. He hears noises coming from upstairs, so then he goes up the stairs. My point is, if what we see happen here, obviously he got up, whether he got him when just injured or if he turned, still he would have to just brush past Silas's back to go up the stairs. How do you pass him and not know that? You know what I mean? How do you not hear him? Or even if he is a walker, how does he pass fresh meat that's just has his back turned at an open door? That I didn't understand that. That scene right there just threw me off. I get where they were going with and why they wanted to do it, but then you should have picked a different house to put this set in, because the design didn't play out well.
I agree 100% that was a very poorly written scene from that perspective, because anyone you would definitely see the father coming behind, because he would have to turn around and then walk up the stairs, so he would pass by that doorway. So that was not a good decision to do it that way. The only reason why, of course, they did it that way is because they wanted you to believe as a viewer, well, the father could be anywhere. And therefore, the whole thing about trying to keep people on the edge of their seat and keep them scared is that, well, he can pop up anywhere. But still, that was not done well, because you can see clearly he would have to pass by Silas to get up the stairs. Now, the only other explanation would be, well, maybe at that point he didn't turn, and maybe all of a sudden, as the matter of convenience, Dana would say, he got upstairs and all of a sudden, okay, now he turned into a empty.
Yeah,
so
and, we'll just get to that, because that's pretty much the next one. Because there's another little scene. Felix goes out to visit Silas, see how he's doing, which is also bullshit. He was like, "Hey, you need a drink? How you doing? Is everything okay?" What is this shit? He's not just hanging out there. You tied him up outside, where could be possible empties out there. Come on, it's a horrible scene, and you're accusing him of murder, and he blacks out. He doesn't know, so he's confused. They have a little back and forth. He was like, listen, I don't know. Maybe I did it. Maybe I didn't do it. Do you think I did? I don't know. I need more info. This is Felix. I need more info. I can't give you. I don't know. And then we get back to the flashback. He's back in the house. He hears the noises coming from upstairs. He goes upstairs. He's looking around. He takes a look. He sees the back, I guess, of his dad. He thinks it's his dad. Turns him around, or he turns around. We don't really know. We just see the dad turn around, and he's a zombie. He's a walker. He's an empty, whichever way you want to call it. And that's where we had this issue. That's why we're like, how? Because that means if that was the case, he had turned when he was on the floor from the ass whooping that he took from his son. So then if he turned, then the first thing he's going to do is attack the fresh meat. Well, straight down the hall is his son, who's peeking out of the door, who's not really paying attention. He could have easily just attacked him, but no, he keeps turning, almost makes that weird U-turn to go up the stairs. And even if someone would say, oh, well, what if he didn't turn? What if he was just injured and wanted to go up the stairs? That still, you would have heard that. He would have been slumping. We would have seen all of that. The woman would have heard it. The neighbor would have heard it. It's like, I hear all this commotion behind you. What's happening? Oh, that's what my dad. That could have been whatever. It was forced. But the point is, there's a confrontation. Dad's reaching for him. They're doing a little struggle. He pushes him. He then backs out, goes running into his room. Silas does, and he locks the door. Right, and I'm just meshing this together because there was a lot of flashback back and forth. But let's get to this, because this was the meat and potatoes of this episode. It was all of this. So while he's in this room, he starts getting other memories. He does another deep flashback where he recalls just he was in the room with his dad, and his dad was like, "Hey, lay down on the ground." It's like, okay. He lays down. He puts a speaker next to him. He starts playing some heavy metal, rock music, and he says, "All right, before the world went to shit, this is what it felt like to be in a concert." So he tells him, close his eyes, close your eyes. So he closes his eyes. He has a speaker next to his head. I'm like, is this some kind of torture or some shit? But then the dad lays down next to him. And this is a bonding moment. He's like, yep. He's like, he closes his eyes. He's like, yeah. Now imagine people talking and bumping into you and all this stuff. And you could feel the music. You could feel the energy. And he's getting all into it. And he's like, do you feel it, son? Do you feel it? And he's like, yeah, I feel it. So it's like at the same time he's hearing his dad now as a walker banging on the door, but then he's also reflecting and remembering this fond moment. And here's another thing, when people are trying to, and we discussed this off air, trying to figure out, is this first wave, if this happened before, all the craziness. When Silas had ran into his room, and the first thing he did was open up the window, but then he started shaking the bars. There was bars on his window. Now I know if you live in a bad neighborhood and your apartment is the first floor, or your house is in a bad area, you may have bars on the windows, but he was really banging it. And these are thick bars. I've never seen these type of bars on the windows. So for that, and then the mention that the dad did, the mentioning of before the world went to shit. This is what a concert felt like. So this tells me there's already a zombie outbreak. They know about this. This wasn't like, holy shit, this just happened. I can't believe this. They know of this. So I know we said a little bit and we said to save it for the show. So what did you guys think? Did you pick that up? Or Dana, I know you had your own view of what was going on during this time period.
Yep, I don't care what anyone says. He's still a part of that kind of first wave situation, and I feel that it's because one, you kind of see how everyone is out and about like it's normal. For me, especially with that whole neighbor situation, knocking on the door to make sure that you're okay, and the fact that she was in like, did he turn or is anything zombie-ish going on in there? Mm-hmm. To me, I felt that she was perfectly fine with her safety, so she wasn't afraid, thinking that it would be a house full of zombies. Also, for me, I'm not really sure on this time period, but it seems like during this time, this is when Huck was busy being a soldier, and remember when she had to kill all those innocent people, we didn't know whether or not they turned. So if you're going to, for me, and remember they had that conversation, it was very brief, but it also explained, if you pay attention to any of the interviews that the creator of the show did, and it was, the two soldiers that was behind Huck was saying, it came from space, and someone breathed it in. That's the actual origin story of where this came from. I kind of felt that was during the exact same timeline as this kid is going through his situation now. So I feel that this was part of that whole first wave situation, and that his dad turned. Now the fact that he didn't say, oh my God, would you turn into a walker or anything, to me it seemed like he was genuinely didn't understand what was going on and was genuinely afraid for his life. Because to me, it just didn't seem like something he put two and two together, like, oh my God, he's a walker. It was one of those situations where he kind of walked into, it was also weird, the setup. He got the dad to go inside the closet, and he played the music.
See, and I thought that's what I thought. I thought it was a closet, but it clearly wasn't a closet, because then you see later, and we'll get to it, the dad is downstairs.
I don't understand. I think it was the cutting. I think it was the editing that was really choppy.
So I'm thinking.
But to me, it felt like a closet.
This is what I'm thinking. Yeah. Envision this. He goes up, he turned the hallway, he sees the parents' room, he sees his dad standing there, right? Dad turns around, because remember, there was a lamp that was next to Silas. He had it in his hand, and that looked like a lamp that was like on near a bed. But then he pushes him, then he went running down the hall, went into his bedroom, and it definitely must have been his bedroom, because he had his music equipment there. He had his tape and all that stuff in his headphones, so it must have been his room. So then I'm thinking that was it. The dad then wandered from the bedroom down the hall to his bedroom and started banging on Silas's door the whole time. So then that was it. Yeah, because at first, like you, I sort of thought it was a closet, but I'm like, no, because we weren't in this room. This wasn't, no, if anything, it would have been that Silas would have been in a closet. I don't know. Weird layout. Keep going.
So yeah, the whole situation was weird. And for me, I thought when he turned on the music to lay down, he was hoping that his father would kind of switch back.
So
Because
you
if you're in that, yeah.
So you're thinking. So now all right. So wait a minute. So you're thinking that maybe he doesn't know that his dad turned into an empty or a walk or whatever. You think he
No,
just looks like he's
he
crazy.
does not know that.
He's just crazy.
I that he blacked out. He's in some form of a craze. I don't think he fully realized that he killed his dad. Because if you look at what happened when he smashed them in with the pitcher. He smashed them and he had 2 gashes on both sides of his face. But what it was the stab wound to his abdomen that I think really was the one that killed him.
Yeah.
Because we don't see him beating until later. So for me, I think that he didn't know what in the world was going on. And he thought that music, because, the dad was really into the music. There's certain things when you get into that anger mode that you can help someone snap them out of it. And he thought that music would kind of calm it down and block out whatever was going on.
So we'll get into that music because he blasts the music and then he starts thinking back of that memory. And then he switches to another point where he's like, forget it. He lays down himself in that present flashback, puts on the headphones, cranks up the volume. It's like, fuck, I'm just going to lay here. I'm going to zone out, forget about the fact that my madman dad is banging on the door and just forget about it. And the first thing I popped up is like, yeah, the mom is going to die. This is what I was thinking. I completely forgot that the mom had testified at that point. But because that tells us that she did survive. But it was still, it's like, oh, you're not worried about your mom. But then, you know what? That probably goes to what you were saying, Dana. He probably doesn't know anything about the war. He probably doesn't know that his dad turned. He probably thinks his dad is just flipping out. So, So anyway, eventually the tape stops playing. And I guess he doesn't have one of those auto flip tape decks because it would have just continued from side B. But it stops. He takes the headset off and he realizes, the banging has stopped. There's nothing else going on. So he walks over and he doesn't hear anything. And then all of a sudden, we hear mom's home and she's like, Silas. And he's like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then you hear, you hear screaming and all this stuff. So he opens up the door. He goes running down the hall. Yeah, and he goes down the stairs and you see zombie dad attacking mom. So that's happening. He runs over. He grabs the dad. He's fighting with him. And this is where he doesn't black out. I don't think this is a blackout moment. And here's the thing. We through all these flashbacks that we're seeing, this is not for just us. This is Silas remembering. Because we see real quick within these, and if you've seen the episode, you already know what I'm talking about. We saw between these flashbacks, it cuts to Silas just looking up at the stars with his eyes closed. It's like it's all coming back to him. Like, yes, he blacked out, and I think that's genuine when he says he blacked out. He didn't know at the time, but I think now, in this moment, what I gathered from this, when he closes his eyes and he looks up, or he puts his head up at the sky, just takes a deep breath, and we get these flashback moments, it's him remembering, holy shit, that's right, that's how this happened. And then the dad attacked him, and he squeezed his head with like all his might, his anger, and you see everything just like popping and blood vessels, everything squirting. His hands are just like digging deep into the skull. Really cool effect. And then he just drops him down, and then just starts banging his head against the ground, just like a madman. And I guess you're right again. Now that I think back, Dana, that would explain the mom's reaction of like, holy shit, you just murdered your dad, because she just sees this madman, meaning the dad attacking, but then she sees her son just bashing the shit out of him. So maybe because he didn't bite her, she doesn't know that he had turned. So
because here's the thing. When he gets to her, he's basically, it looks like he's trying to strangle her, even though he's grabbing her down, and we know that he's trying to bite her. To her, that whole thing was an ambush. She comes into the door, she comes inside the house, and then you have the husband who already has a history of that abusiveness, just looks like he's trying to strangle you. And then all of a sudden, you just see your son black out, and not just like knock someone down, but literally beat someone to death. That whole thing is like confusing and chaos, and you see that he's already bruised from before, so you don't even know what you stepped into or whether or not there was a fight or if your son just snapped and finally killed him.
You were gonna say something, Rich? You agree with that?
Uh, I was going to say I agree with the points that have been made, but I also was going to add that to go to the comment you made earlier about when the dad had the conversation in the flashback with Silas about we're going back to a time before the world went to shit. I don't believe that at that point, whatever's happening with this outbreak, it's not widespread at that point yet, because it would explain the mother's reaction of thinking that, okay, yes, she didn't really acknowledge that the father is a zombie. And then it also explains how in the previous episodes, when Silas has had the flashbacks where, the police came, the ambulance came, he's still arrested. From my perspective, it looks like the world is still operating under normal circumstances, and there is not an outbreak yet.
So maybe what he meant as the world going to shit was maybe toward like a musical issue. Like he feels like all this pop music and other things are playing, because the song they were playing, I looked it up. Yeah. It was like an 80s band playing an old song. I mean, they had glam rock hair, this band. I've never heard of them, and I listened to a lot of rock and metal. I was like, who the hell is this? But so maybe that's what he was doing, because then he mentioned, I was at AC/DC show, and they almost blew the roof off the place and stuff. So maybe it's just a music thing, and this is a way of him just trying to connect with his son, of like, hey, I listen to rock, I listen to this stuff. Hey, maybe you'll like it too. This is the type of concerts I used to go to. His son in that early flashback looks kind of young to even consider going to a concert. So I don't know. But yeah, because that's the other thing. And in those flashbacks, Silas is much younger. He's definitely a much younger kid. He, maybe 9, 10?
Younger and also skinnier. Because you remember when they had that fight, he made a mention about, are you a pig?
Yeah.
Alluding to the fact that Silas has put on weight and, but again, the father is just overall abusive. It could be for any reasons, but that was definitely highlighted in that argument before when Silas took him out.
I took pig as different. I thought pig is in like, are you sloppy? Because remember, the house was so clean and pristine.
Yeah, it's very clean.
It definitely could mean that.
Pig.
Well, it definitely could mean that. Yeah, it could mean that also. I mean, it could mean any of these things. But I that was the comment I heard when he mentioned that, and I said, yeah. And then I look at how Silas was at a younger age. Clearly, a lot trimmer, looks a lot different, and now older. Yes, is put on some pounds. So I didn't know if it was referring to that also.
We've all gotten fat.
All right. So. Yes. Well, then, here we go. So during this whole time of all these flashbacks, there is something going on in the present day while he's tied up out there. There is, like, we all assumed, you're like, shit, that's got to be an empty somewhere around there. And sure enough, there is. But the house that they're in, that area, has a fencing. Well, there's one that this entire time when he's having these flashback memories that's been banging itself against the fencing there. And eventually, I don't know how it has the strength to do it, but it does it. It breaks his fencing down, falls down, and now it's crawling toward him. And he sees this, but he's like, whatever. He leans his head back. He's like, I'm just going to start remembering the good old days of when I killed my dad. So he's just doing all that. And he never calls out for help. And once we're done with all these flashbacks, and I'll mention just the last part of that flashback, after he did all the head banging for his dad, he looks at his hands. And he sees all the blood on his hands. And that is a call back to the earlier episodes when Silas used to get those flashbacks. Remember those really quick glimpses? And we would see him looking at his hands and the blood. Like, whoa. Well, that's it. That comes from that moment. Because now it hit him like that shock. It's like, holy shit. I just bashed the shit out of my dad's head on the ground. I just did this. And he looks at his mom. And the mom is terrified on two fronts. Probably from the dad. But then, damn, my son just did this. And poof. We're back in present day. His head's back. He's looking up at stars. He opens up his eyes. And he knows he's still alive. And he looks over and it's Hope. And she's like, what the hell? Why didn't you scream? Why didn't you say anything? And I still think you killed Tony. And he was like, then why did you save me? Why do you give a shit? She's like, well, we've had enough death already. And then she leaves him. And she goes back in. And right there, I was like, that doesn't make much sense. That was dumb.
So there's a question that I wanted to ask, and I specifically wanted to wait until we started recording this show so I could ask you both this question. So if in that particular moment You said Silas was reflecting on what he has done with his dad because, yeah, we must admit he did kill his dad. He killed him twice. He killed his dad, and then he killed the dead version of his
Yeah, he
dad.
gave him the true death.
So here's a question for you both: is if in that moment Silas actually accepted that, and then he didn't get saved, and the empty took him out, do you think that would have made this a better episode, or were you satisfied with him getting saved by the person who this whole episode didn't really believe that he was innocent?
All right, so there's a little issue I have with all of that because of what happens later on. And again, I really hope you guys watch this episode and you're doing this just for the recap to see if you missed anything. Because he does mention later on that he freed himself throughout the night. So I feel at any point he could have left, or what I was thinking is he could have just, for me, the ending would have been, it's like, you know what, after reflecting on what he did for survival from his dad, this empty is coming close to him. He gets up, he kills that thing, and he says, you know what, I'm out. I'm just leaving. Because eventually that's what happens. But that, for me, would have been I don't think it would have been satisfying to see him just die from there, because then no one gets any answers from all of this. And it's like, wow, did he not do it? It doesn't matter. He's dead now. I mean, I personally don't think he did it. I still don't think he did it. I think once we find Percy, I think Percy is a con man in himself, and I think he's out there and he's figured out some way to do it, and he'll play another role in this. Or maybe there's something even more. Maybe it has something to do with Huck. Maybe Huck is orchestrating all of this.
Yeah.
Because maybe even when Huck was saying, I'm sorry, meaning, I'm sorry, I just screwed you. I had to set this up because I need you out of the picture.
Well, there certainly is proof of that in this episode, how she knew he had access to all that stuff. She went into his bag and showed that stuff to Iris. So clearly she, could have been involved. Go ahead.
But also another thing that kind of had me wondering, because of the placement of the flashback, I kind of wondered if that's what happened to Tom. Through something that we didn't see, Tom got bit. Tom turned. Tom tried to attack the kid, and he flipped out and bashed him in the head with that wrench and locked himself in that little cubby thing.
You mean Tony?
Tony.
Oh, I was like, Tom? I was like, wait, what? I missed
I said Tom. Oh, goodness. I meant Tony.
Oh, right.
But yeah, that's what I kind of wonder. And Percy fled the scene.
See, because that's I thought about that when I first saw it. I was like, well, maybe he did get bit. Maybe something happened. There we go. Maybe Silas blacked out by killing him, just like he blacked out killing his dad. That's everything. But that doesn't explain why Percy's missing.
So
Percy just could have just fled, just in general.
So
because the last time we saw Percy been gone. That was the issue that we had. Because remember when back with the other episode when Percy set up that whole thing with the van to make it look like the museum, and he never came in there.
But he also. I don't see that as a farewell. I don't think he was leaving. I thought that this was another attempt for him to woo her. Like, that was it. It's like, I'm going to really
or distract her.
Or distract her. But Rich, you said it sounded like you were going to jump in for something.
I do want to say something, but I have to wait until we get to the end of the episode because I have another theory, but I'll wait until.
All right.
Yeah.
So here's a quick little segment, but this had a lot into it, even though it was a short scene. We see Iris and Elton laying down, sleeping next to each other. I guess they were all in a circle. I don't know their sleeping arrangements, but they were laying down, and they start talking about all this stuff. And Elton still feels that Silas is innocent, but he brings up a point. He was like, you know what? There's no laws out here. There's everything that we know and the rules that we abide by back at the university don't apply out here. If anything, this would be sort of like a group vote situation. And he tells Iris, which was very surprising, I see you as a leader. You are really? I don't see that, but he did. I see you as a leader and your vote counts. And from, I guess, doing his own math, her vote would be the deciding factor if if Silas stays with the group, because there was one point when Iris is talking with Hope, and she said, well, everybody makes mistakes, things happen, and I'm saying to myself, oh, so you're basically giving everyone, at least one murder, a pass. If you kill one person, it's a non-walker or empty, yeah, we can look past it, because she was like, well, maybe he was out to help me, and so she's still in her mind on the fence of maybe he's still a good guy. She doesn't fully see him as what everyone else is saying. It was like, oh no, he straight up killed him. Well, we don't know that for sure. Yeah, all the evidence is pointing toward it. But I just found from that moment, it was funny how Elton refers to Iris as a leader of this group. Did you guys get a kick out of that? Or did you just like, oh yeah, I guess so? No.
Didn't you kind of almost say that she was a leader when the series first started? She had that gun-ho attitude.
Oh, at the beginning, at the school, yes, but not during this journey, because this journey, it's pretty much been Hope. Hope has been guiding all this. I know Iris has been wanting to do it, but it's mainly Hope that was organizing a lot of things. She was the one leaving the trail for Felix and Huck. She was trying to plan things out because she knew that we're going to need help. So I guess you could, yeah, maybe she's a co-leader, I guess. I don't know. I'm just not really, I didn't connect with her now.
She's solving maps and everything else.
She did. Yeah,
her first little walker.
Yeah.
She's trying.
Yeah, I guess what I get out of it is that I'm just saying, I don't see any leaders in this group. I feel like everybody is sort of lost. We got Huck and Felix just going along for the ride, or at least we thought Huck was. And they're just on this mission. No one has a set plan, is what I'm getting at. Yes, she may seem like she had it, but she doesn't, because we heard even before in the previous episode when Felix was talking to Tony, and he's like, where you guys, what's going on now? What's the next step? He's like, I don't know. We got this truck, you're going to help us drive, but we don't know what we're doing. We have no way of trying to rescue him. That probably was done off camera, but we don't know if he told Tony the full story. And this is why I think that Huck had something to do with it, because maybe Felix did spill the beans of everything. And as we'll find out later with Huck and what her motives are, she's probably trying to reduce any contact that they have with people not part of the group, especially those that want to tag along. And I think once we saw that announcement in the last episode where Tony and Percy said, hey, we like you guys, we're going to stick around, yay. I mean, the camera never panned to Huck to see if she was cool with that.
I had a different theory. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. You just give me one quick second. I just add this. Since you brought that up right there, Adam, what I was going to say later is that I do believe she is the one that orchestrated what happened to Tony for that reason, because it would make more sense, and because because let's recall she was with the group prior to that happening.
Yeah.
So she definitely has to be considered a suspect as helping to make sure that all these events played out so that it can only be the focus of that group being the ones that need to get to the destination. But go ahead, Dana.
No, I was going to just kind of piggyback off of that with that theory in the sense of, remember how we went back to the CRM and they're kind of working on some form of a cure, and you can clearly see that it's not working. And so I would assume that they're using some kind of form of an injection to see the vaccine. So in a weird way, I feel that we all know what Huck is really about now. Maybe she was the one who kind of infected. I'm still going with the theory that Tom turned. And it was because Huck maybe injected him with one of those vials that they're using at the CRM. And knowing that, Silas would end up killing Tony. Mm-hmm. And that's how you create that whole distraction thing. What happened to Percy? Maybe Percy, in the midst of that, walked in to see what was going on and fled.
All right. You know what? In fact, we have a lot of thoughts on it. So once the ending, we'll all bring this up again. We'll come with our theories because we're almost toward the end of this episode. It was a lot of just flashbacks, but it felt kind of quick. The entire episode just moved pretty quick, which is always a plus. Didn't seem like it dragged. Not a lot of filler. So we get into the daylight now, and it's the next morning, and Iris goes out there to go and talk to Silas. And then we just see Silas just standing up, and again in my head I'm thinking the Saw moment, because he stands up and he's taking ropes. He was like, I freed myself throughout the night, and you see Iris's face, her eyes wide open, like, oh my god. And I was like, this is it. This is where he chokes her out now. It was like, I've been waiting for this. But he did say he was waiting for morning to tell her, and he's like, you know what? I did it. I did all of it. He's like, I killed my dad. I killed Tony. I killed Percy. I'm the bad guy. I'm a killer. He said just like that, straight face too. And I'm like, I was like, that's the day he's gonna kill her too. That would have been awesome, but it did not happen. He says he's sorry. He's glad that he met her. And she was like, oh, but you kept my drawings. What's up with that? And he was like, they were beautiful drawings. And she was like, oh, okay. Well, like, I'm not gonna deny that. Thanks. Pretty good drawings, right? But that was it. She was cool with it. And he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna leave. He's like, you sure? Yeah, I gotta go. That's it. I'm done with all this. And then you see her do a U-turn, walk back into the house, and everybody's just, hanging out. And she's like, hey, he's gone. He left. It's like, oh, really? And this is a key part, and this goes again. We're going to have our discussion right at the end, because we all have our thoughts, because a lot happened at that last scene. But we see Huck talking to Felix, and she looks out the window. She's like, you think he's going to come back? And he was like, no, I don't think he's going to come back. And I wrote in my notes, I'm like, of course they're going to come back, because you're not going to be here. You guys are still moving. Remember, you're going toward New York. This isn't home base. You're not sticking around. I'm assuming that it's morning time. You're going to pack your bags and then just get back on the road. You still have the truck, right? That's what I'm thinking. But the fact that she looked out the window is like, you think he's going to come back, meaning she is going to try to kill him the next time, because she needs to get him out of the picture. So real quick, do you guys want to say anything about these two scenes here?
I was slightly confused. Well, no, I wasn't confused. I just wondered if this was kind of because we all know that he could have easily just left earlier or walked back inside the house and got some warmth and some comfort. But I wondered if this was kind of his way of punishing himself for what happened. So he just kind of stayed out there with the cold, and even if the walker was going to come and eat him, so be it. That would be his punishment for everything that has happened in his life.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Well, I think it was that Under the Stars, and this is the thing that bothered me with the title of this about the sky's a graveyard, is that conversation happens between between Iris and Elton, and they're in the house. Right? They were in the house when that happened. That they weren't looking at the stars. They weren't outside. If anything, that conversation would have been great if Elton and Silas had that when he went to visit him outside. But keep going.
No, yeah. So because of that, he stayed outside, and he kind of just came to the decision that he would just leave. Which I wondered if we kind of knew that he was always going to leave because he didn't want to bring any harm towards that group. But I also wondered if he knew that they was okay with leaving, or if they would kind of fight for him to stay. And I don't think that he felt that confidence in them, so he left.
Yeah, but I feel that part of me felt like it was like a spur of the moment thing, because he didn't have any supplies. He doesn't have his bags. He has nothing, just the clothes on his back.
Which again would go into that whole punishment thing. If I die, I die.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, I agree. He is ready for death, because we saw it when that walker was getting close. He did not scream. He didn't do anything. He just closed his eyes and leaned his head back. He was like, fuck it. This is about to happen. I'm going to let it happen. But you know what? Let's get to it. This is it. Final scenes. And this is powerful scenes here. Powerful scenes. For me, this made the episode. It wasn't a great episode. As you see, we pointed out some issues with the storyline and just the overall layout. But this actually brought a lot of storytelling to light for this season. I don't know if the season's going to continue in this way, but we'll see. So we see Elton inside the house after hearing all this, and he's talking to Hope, and he says, you know what, I'm leaving. I'm going after him. He needs me. And she was like, but you said we were family. Like, yeah, he's family, and he has no supplies. He has nothing. He needs somebody, and I still believe in him. I don't think he did this, so I'm gonna be there for him. And like I said, you know what? I think this is my journey. I think this is what I'm meant to do. I'm also gonna go find my mom, and I'm gonna find my baby sister. And he's saying all that, and you just see the camera does a great job of just panning to Hope's face, because then he's hugging her, and she's just crying now, like, oh no. And she's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And she says, you know what? This is it. She starts crying. She says, I'm going to tell you everything. And he's like, what's going on? And she takes the chain off and she puts it in his hand. He still doesn't recognize it. And I guess maybe because he was very young when it happened.
He was a kid.
But he does not understand. Yeah. And so she puts it in the hands, like, and then she starts telling him the story. Saying, you know, I was with my mom, and it was during the day the sky fell, and your mom was frantic, and all this, and you see his eyes, like wait, what's going on? And it does like almost like a little side montage that's still happening off in the background, but we now see that he has way too many bags with him. I mean, the guy looks like he's headed to the airport. He's got 2 big duffel bags. He's got it on his back. He's got each handful with bags. I'm like, how far does he think he's going to be able to go carrying all these bags? You know, so while she's telling him this whole thing, we see that he had left, and he falls down. And I thought there was going to be some relevance to this, but unless I'm wrong, you guys can jump in. He sees a walker on the ground some distance away. It wasn't close enough to attack, and it seemed to be trapped. But that wasn't a walker that we knew. That wasn't Percy or anyone, right? Or an empty, I should say. Right? That was just a general empty.
That was a general one.
All right, cool.
It was important.
It was important in a way, because I guess he sees that, and then he started thinking back about his mom and all this stuff, and then he really breaks down. We see him crying and just all upset about that. But sure enough, we do another little quick jump, and we see our boy Silas, and he's just out on an open road. Literally, it looks like an open road area, nice clear road, and he's walking, and he has his headphones on. And he has a weapon. What was that, like a stake or something? But he's got something, because there is an empty in front of him, and he just cracks it over the head. And keeps walking. It does a quick cut back to Elton, who's on the ground crying, looking down at the chain from his mom. But then he dusts himself off. He gets up, and he continues on his journey. He's just going out there to go find Silas with all these bags. Way too many bags. But the part that I didn't understand was a quick part, and I guess maybe it was a bad cut. They cut back to Silas, and we see him walking, but it's a front shot again, and he doesn't have the headphones on. Did you notice that? He had the headphones when he's walking.
Yep.
And he hits.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah, and then when they cut back again, so it's not like a big time jump. It's supposed to be, we're just cutting right back to see his reaction, see his face one last time after killing that empty there. He doesn't have the headphones on. So I'm like, this wasn't a consistent cut. This was something else.
I think that was also symbolism of him, you know, no longer listening to the headphones. You know, they made mention of that.
So you think it was on purpose?
Times.
You think it was on purpose?
Yeah. They made mention of that multiple times in the flashback. You know, the whole incident where they teased that the father was doing abuse when they were at the dinner table. So I figured that was also him saying goodbye to. Now that he's accepted what has happened with his father, he's just saying goodbye to all of that, and he intentionally left that behind.
Yeah.
Oh, I took it as something different.
Oh, go ahead.
I took it as they used music to bond together, and also for him to calm down.
Yes.
That's why he's always using music.
Oh, that's and his dad, his grandpa's conversation, reading scripture. Remember, he had the tape of his grandpa's reading scripture. So yeah,
and
I can go with that.
Keeps him level-headed. And so now, without that music, he is his true form. You know, like the Hulk thing. So yeah.
That's good. That's a good explanation.
All right. Yeah, that could be it. But you know what? This is it. This is the end credit part. And Dana, this is all you.
Wait, can I just really quickly say something? Backtrack for 5 seconds. That I was really angry that Hope would tell Silas this.
Oh, we knew it was going to happen. Come on now.
No. That's not the fact. The fact that she would tell him this, that she would tell Elton this as he was going off on his own, that is a huge distraction. And now you're by yourself. Yeah. So I thought that was really selfish.
Well, I knew that this moment was coming. It was not as satisfying as I hoped because I want there to be some retaliation. So the fact that he just walks off and just says, "Oh, whatever,"
Take her.
that was a little disappointing.
I didn't like the fact that he sent her out there during the whole death thing. That was not cool. But with the final scene that we knew what was happening since episode 1, probably. It goes into we find Huck because remember Huck has those random moments where she just disappears for it may be a couple hours or days on end. Remember she has 42 hours, right? So anyway, it goes to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is not in her little fancy compound. It looks like to be a trailer home, right? And she is sitting down, and there's like the security guard she's talking with, and they're wondering, where is she? Where's she at? That kind of thing. We don't know who she is. And the guy is saying she's gonna come, and there the door opens, and comes another man who's armed, and then walks in Huck, to no one's surprise, and comes Huck. She comes in, and Elizabeth starts talking about, how's the package? Is the package secure?
Yeah,
and
asset.
that
She kept calling it asset. Yeah.
the asset. Now it wasn't assets, which is very interesting. It was asset.
Yeah, they only care about Iris. I think that's all it's been about. It's always been about Iris. I don't think they care about Hope, and definitely not the other boys.
Or it could have been Felix.
No.
Well, you got it. Like Will is there, so asset.
Nope.
Cold-blooded. Anyway, so she's talking about is the asset secure, and that it's going to be secure, and that, well, this was before Huck walked in. She's talking to the security guard about the asset and the asset being secure, and we know where the asset is at all times because we have that person who's with the asset. That asset, we don't know yet, but you say it is Hope. I say I don't know. Anyway, Huck walks in to no one's surprise, and we know that Huck is working for the CRM. She's one of them double spies. So she's trying to get the group to the campus where the CRM is, where the father is, because the asset. Those times when she's been disappearing, remember she said she had 48 hours, that's where she's been. So before when we saw her, remember you said that was a nice little bunker. That was probably a CRM bunker that she was in, that they have, sprinkled about black site. I don't know. So she talks about, whether or not everything is secure and everything is going on according to plan. And yes, everything is going according to plan. The thing is that she has a tendency to also be late. So you see that Elizabeth is sitting down. She's kind of looking at something, and there's this very nice watch. It's a fancy watch, like a men's watch. And she hands it over to Huck saying, hey, don't be late. And she says, is this Dad? So we don't know who Dad is. But she says, is this Dad? Yes, this is Dad. And that's when she walks out. So we already know that she's working for CRM in order to bring in the package, which kind of makes me wonder if she already knows that the campus is no longer there. Like everyone is gone and dead.
All right, now we can get into what we think is happening here. And I think this is pretty bad storytelling, only because they've been trying. Hope and Iris want to see their dad. If the plan was always to have at least Iris or Hope, whichever is the asset, get to this area so they can use as leverage, which is what I'm thinking, to use as leverage to get to Dad to work with them, then why not just say, hey, you girls want to see your dad? Let's get in the chopper. Let's go see your dad. Why go to all these lengths to have Huck go after them and make sure they're on the path, go through the trouble of building a raft or a boat, whatever you want to call it, to go across the Mississippi? For what?
I can answer that question because they want to take the viewers on a scenic route of what is going on with these characters. Because if that was the case, all of this would have happened in one episode. We wouldn't have a whole season.
I get that. I get that.
Yeah.
But then they shouldn't have had this be the outcome. It should have been something else. Because once she said secure the asset, once we see that this has all been planned out, Huck is there and everything is planned out. Why? Because if Huck is there, she knows where they are. Just send a truck right now to go pick them up.
Yeah, that's
it.
true.
Just pick them up. Oh, why do all this trip to go see the Wizard of Oz when you know where they're at? Just get.
I think I know.
Why?
Okay. This goes back to the conversation with the A's and the B's. Remember the A's and the B's? And this also ties into fear as well, where you have an AB who is a regular person and you have to test their mental and physical endurance.
Yeah. So this is a test. This is a test.
I feel that this is a test. And that is why we're taking them on this long journey in order to test them. That whole situation with the guy and Percy, Tom, I feel was planted by the CRM, that he probably worked for the CRM along with Percy. And this was, some type of way to see how the girls would react to new people and distraction. And to see how well their skills are. Also, the map with the invisible ink. Wasn't it just so random that all of a sudden he can, figure out that it was invisible ink?
No, but he was into all that type of stuff. But really, who solved it all was Iris.
No, it just
Iris
seemed,
is the one that found the DNA location.
But we don't know. Right, but again, we don't know where he came from. We're only being told what they tell us. And he's like, yeah, I was part of the circus. And yeah, this is my sister's son. We don't know that. And I just randomly found that it was invisible ink.
Only because,
to me, I don't believe that.
See, if that was the case, then there was no reason for them to do that whole Rouge thing of making believe he was dead to rob them and stuff. That's too elaborate. They didn't need to do all that. I think what happened is that maybe Huck was on one of her communications with Elizabeth. Tony overheard, saw that, and they had altercation, and she had to kill him. And then she either beat or she drugged Silas and put him in the closet. And was like, I'm just going to frame this dude, and I'm going to get him out of the way also. Because remember, that was the plan before. Way back, if you remember when Felix was talking about what they were going to do, and they were like, we got to get these boys out of it. Maybe we can turn Elton. She's like, yeah, we can take the boys back. You take the boys back, I'll grab the girls. So it was also to get Felix to go with the boys back to campus so she can bring the girls over to Elizabeth.
See, I like that theory. The reason why I don't know if it's 100%, if that's 100% it, is because she didn't, and she nor Elizabeth mentioned anything about these other two guys. Tom.
No. But you got to remember, this was before that. Because remember, she said, I only have 42 hours before they come back to find me. This is, in a way, a flashback of when they first reached the other side of the Mississippi. Remember, she said, I'm going to go scout. She ran off to get to them. So this is before meeting those guys.
Okay.
That's why, because she's back, obviously, as we see where she's with the group. So this is where she went. When we all assumed she went to do something shady, well, we were right. She went to do this.
That was the bunker.
Yeah, that was it. She went to go tell her what's going on. Hey, we're made it on this side. This is what everything's going according to plan. We're on track. I only have a few hours. They're going to come back for me, so I have to go back. And then that's when she said, "Here, don't be late. Here's a watch." And yeah, when she said, "Is his dad?" It could be her dad, or it could be Leo dad. This belonged to their dad. This dad's watch. That guy. Who knows? Or maybe her dad is a bigwig, and we'll find out later. If there's a part with that, but. I think that's where that whole thing comes up. But definitely, I have a feeling. And then with the Percy thing, I think Percy saw it. Maybe she attacked him too, but he escaped. And he ran off. And remember, even Felix said the blood trail goes off into the woods and then I lose it. And there's no body. So I think he survived, but he took off. And since there's no cell phones, he can't just call Iris and say, hey, you're in trouble. She's now who she says she is. It's too late. So I think that's all, and we know she's cold-blooded. We know it, and they teased it in the last episode when she killed that guy. She said she was going to help. Remember, don't worry, everything is calm. Everything's going to be good. I know how to amputate. I'm going to do it. Oh, okay. They hug, and she kills him. It's like, do what you got to do.
And not only did they tease it with that, but then they also, again, in that episode and in this one, mentioned that she would do whatever she needs to do to make sure the mission is successful. Yep. So that's why when they made mention of the asset, really, everyone else is expendable just so long as Iris is protected, because they intend to use her for the future.
Or maybe
I don't see it as Iris.
No, you know what? I think you're right. which Dana, because every time she says let's separate and go venture off, it's Hope. She said, I'm going to go with Hope. I'm going to go. And we were assuming Hope because she's scared that Hope, or what we thought, that Hope was going to open up her mouth to Elton and spill the beans. But maybe this is just to make sure Hope survives, because Hope is the key right here. So maybe that's what. But then again, it's like, shoot, you could have just
but
put
you know
her...
what? That's good. That's a very good theory, since Hope is the one who from this show. It just seems that she's very talented, but she does a lot. She does a lot of things that gets herself into trouble. But she's very, very smart in terms of knowing certain things in regards to science, etc. So yeah, it could be Hope. We'll continue.
But it's going to be interesting. But that's what we said. Like the whole episode was like, okay, pretty cool flashbacks. You're trying to figure it out. But man, this ending very strong for the story, at least, because now we're trying to put pieces together. We are confirming things like the Hulk issue. We confirm that now. But they threw in some little curveballs here, especially with Elton wandering off. And I don't know if he's going to find Silas. He's carrying a lot of bags. He's moving real slow. I'm sorry. He's a small guy. He's got a lot of bags. It's not going to last long. He better
No, you got Silas to kind of help.
But that's
catch up with Silas.
Yeah. Unless he gets to the main road, and that is a long stretch of road, he can see him, and he screams out, "Silence!" He does something like that. Who knows? There's only 2 episodes left, so.
Now, y'all know full well that this show is very good at the matter of convenience. I'm pretty sure he will find Silas and they will survive and get back to wherever the hell they're going to.
Well, here's the other thing. From what we've seen, there's only one main road into this area. There was no other paths. It was just this one road into this land, this little area that they were at. So either way, when the group get into that truck and they go to leave, they're going to go down that road. So they might see them and say, hey, you need a ride? This could have been a whole... we've seen this happen before, where they make it seem like, oh man, everything's going to go in a different direction just for the next episode to just go back all in full circle. Nah, we're cool. Everything is fine. So... What
if Hope or Iris, well, I think Hope, is the cure? That's why they're acting this way.
Then they should have just picked them up. Say, hey, you want to see your dad? Yeah, let's go. All right, get in a helicopter. Let's go. That's it. And then the whole show could have been about like an escape from New York moment. They're just trying to escape the area, escape that compound, escape through the woods, cross the Mississippi, get back to the campus so they can, set up their army or whatever they have. That would have been another way of telling the story. But this is still bothering me, that if this is the whole thing, that it's a test, sort of like the way Jenny in Fear the Walking Dead sent, Victor over into that room to clear out all the empties and all the walkers. See, I'm switching. All the walkers in that warehouse. And it was like, all right, what was the motive of it? What's the point? What's in there? There's nothing there. This was a test to you, and you passed. What the hell? Mm-hmm. So that's what all this is a test to see if they can survive and make it across the Mississippi. I mean, they still had help. Everybody still worked together. She didn't do it alone. It wasn't her planning all this stuff out there. She did work on putting to the boat, not Hope, meaning Iris. She put together that boat along with the help of Silas. So, I don't know. But we'll see. Either way, it got pretty good toward the end. So, 2 more episodes, people. 2 more episodes. So, this was our review of Season 1, Episode 8, World Beyond. And it was up there. It was okay. If I were to rate it, it gets a 5 or a 6. It wasn't as bad as the last one. And it's trying to give us a story. It's trying to fill in some of the gaps. Don't know if it's doing a great job. We'll find out once we brought up some good points of the fact that we're not sure on 100% on what we think. It's usually a good sign in a show, because that means it's got enough meat on the bone. Oh, you're sure? Okay, well, Rich and I aren't completely sure. We definitely know now. We know why. We know that Huck is there and the goal is to get them there, but we don't understand why they're doing it this way. What is the point? You say it's a test. I think it's just bad storytelling. They had to figure out a way to just send these kids on a journey, and this is the journey. But we will see. 2 more episodes. So again, thanks for everybody watching and listening on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube and over at thekoalition.com. That's Koalition with a K. Thanks again, and we will see you. Damn, it's late. We'll see you in a few hours tomorrow or later today for Fear the Walking Dead, the mid-season finale. All right, everybody. Peace.